Kevin didn't notice when life started draining him. Exhaustion didn't crash into his world, it slipped in quietly. It wore the mask of responsibility, of maturity, of being a good person. And by the time he could have questioned it, it already felt normal. Every day followed the same pattern. He woke up not because he was rested, but because someone needed something. His phone buzzed before his thoughts even formed. Messages stacked on top of each other, each one a demand on his time, his energy, his attention. He never paused. He never questioned. He just said yes. At work, Kevin wasn't the most skilled person in the room. But he was the most available. The one who stayed late. The one who picked up extra tasks. The one who absorbed pressure without complaint. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't know how to refuse. Outside of work, nothing changed. Friends called when they needed to vent. Family reached out when they needed support. Kevin was always there. Always listening. Always giving. Even when he was exhausted. Even when he had nothing left. A quiet voice inside him sometimes spoke up. It told him to rest. To stop. To take space, but he ignored it. Saying yes had become his identity. It defined him so deeply that saying no felt like betrayal. From the outside, his life looked good. Stable. Reliable. Admirable, even. But inside, something was breaking. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was slow. A quiet collapse. Like air disappearing from a sealed room, so gradual that you don't notice until it's hard to breathe. Nights were the hardest. That's when everything slowed down. When distractions faded. When he was left alone with himself. He would sit in his apartment, lights dim, silence pressing in. His phone still buzzed occasionally, another request, another expectation. Another reminder that his time didn't really belong to him. One night, something small changed. His phone vibrated on the table. But Kevin didn't pick it up. He just stared at it. For the first time in a long time, he didn't react. Instead, he felt. Not physically, but mentally. Emotionally. A deep exhaustion that sleep could never fix. The kind that builds over years of ignoring yourself. And then a question surfaced. Quiet, but sharp. When was the last time I did something just because I wanted to? Not because someone asked. Not because it was expected. Just because he wanted to. He searched for an answer. There wasn't one. Only silence. And that silence felt heavy. Because it meant the truth, he had slowly disappeared from his own life. Replaced by a version of himself that existed for others. The phone eventually stopped ringing. The room grew still. But something had shifted. In that small moment of not reacting, Kevin felt something unfamiliar. Space. A pause between expectation and response. And inside that pause was a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Relief. It was subtle. Fragile. Like the first breath after being underwater too long. But it scared him. Because it challenged everything he believed about himself. His mind filled with doubt. What if someone needs me? What if I disappoint them? What if this makes me selfish? The questions came fast. Loud. Urgent. But beneath them, something quieter remained. A truth he couldn't ignore anymore. Maybe the exhaustion wasn't just life. Maybe it was the cost of never choosing himself. The next morning felt different. Not easier. Not lighter. But clearer. Like a thin fog had lifted, he noticed things he never used to. How quickly he reached for his phone. How automatically he replied. How little thought he gave to his own time. Then, as expected, another message came in. Another request. And again, that hesitation. That quiet resistance. This time, he didn't ignore it. He listened. Just for a moment. Long enough to realize something simple, but powerful. He didn't want to say yes. Not because he didn't care. But because he was tired. Deeply tired. And that realization led to a decision. Small, but terrifying. He typed slowly. Carefully. Like stepping into unfamiliar ground. Instead of his usual automatic yes, he wrote, "Sorry, I can't help today." He stared at the message. Then he sent it. His heart raced. His mind braced for impact, for disappointment, anger, rejection. But nothing came. Only silence. And inside that silence, something shifted. Deeper this time. Because for the first time in years, Kevin had broken the pattern. He had chosen differently. He had protected a piece of himself. And it didn't feel wrong. It felt unfamiliar. Uncomfortable. But also, right. Like he had aligned with something he had ignored for far too long. In that moment, even if he didn't fully understand it yet, Kevin had taken his first step. Not a big one. Not dramatic. But real. He had said no to what drained him. And in doing so, he had finally started saying yes to himself. Kevin thought saying no once would bring relief. And it did, but only briefly. What he didn't expect was how quickly that one decision would start to shake the balance his life was built on. Because the moment you stop being available all the time, people notice. At first, it was subtle. Messages felt different. Replies came slower. The tone shifted slightly. "Everything okay? You've been a bit off lately." The words seemed normal. But underneath them, Kevin felt something else, an expectation. A quiet pressure to return to who he used to be. For a moment, he almost gave in. Habits built over years don't disappear easily. They pull at you. They whisper familiar instructions: explain more, apologize more, fix the discomfort, go back to being easy. But something inside him had changed. Not completely. But enough. Enough that he couldn't fully return, even if it felt easier. A few days later, the real test came. A close friend reached out. Someone Kevin had always helped without question. The favor would take his entire evening. As he read the message, the old instinct kicked in immediately. Say yes. Don't think. Just agree. But this time, something resisted. A quiet voice reminded him how drained he had been. How empty he had felt. How that one small no had given him space to breathe. He paused. Longer than usual. Because this wasn't just a reply, it was a choice about who he was becoming. Finally, he responded. Honest. Simple. No excuses. Another no. The reply came quickly. You've changed. Then another message. You used to always be there. Those words hit hard. Not because they were completely wrong, but because they revealed a truth Kevin hadn't fully faced. People valued the version of him who gave without limits. The one who never said no. Guilt rushed in instantly. Sharp. Heavy. It made him question everything. Was he selfish? Was he pushing people away? Was this what boundaries cost? For a moment, he almost took it back. His fingers hovered over the screen. He could fix it. Undo it. Return to normal. But he stopped. Because beneath the guilt, there was clarity. If he kept choosing others over himself, nothing would change, the emptiness would stay. And maybe grow. The tension didn't end there. At work, things shifted too. Co-workers who once depended on him reacted when he stopped saying yes. Not openly, but in small ways. Guess you're too busy now. Must be nice to say no. The comments were casual, but they carried weight. Each one tested him. Each one pushed against his decision. Because growth doesn't just happen inside you, it disrupts everything around you. And not everyone is ready for that. Some nights, Kevin sat alone again. But this time, it wasn't emptiness he felt. It was doubt. He wondered if he was going too far. If there was a better balance. If he could protect himself without losing people. And slowly, through that discomfort, he understood something important. Saying no wasn't about rejecting people. It was about not abandoning himself. That difference changed everything. Over time, he started seeing patterns he had ignored before. Some people only reached out when they needed something. Some conversations were never about him. Some connections only worked because he kept overgiving. It wasn't easy to see. But it was real. And that awareness gave him strength. Because now he could tell the difference between being valued and being used. Not everyone reacted badly. A few people accepted his no without pressure. Without guilt. Without questions. Those moments stood out. They felt healthy, respectful. And they showed him something new, that relationships didn't have to cost him his peace. That realization stayed with him. Still, the internal battle didn't disappear. Every time he said no, there was an echo of who he used to be. The version of him that needed approval. That feared rejection. That equated being needed with being valued. Letting go of that wasn't instant. It required patience, consistency, and the courage to sit with discomfort. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, things began to settle. Not because people stopped asking, but because Kevin stopped overgiving. With every boundary he held, he felt stronger. More stable. More present in his own life. The backlash didn't fully disappear. But it no longer controlled him. Because something inside him had changed for good. He was no longer the person who said yes without thinking. He had crossed a line within himself. And once you see the cost of constantly draining yourself, you can't unsee it. Even when guilt returned, even when doubt whispered, there was a deeper truth now. He deserved space. He deserved balance. He deserved a life that didn't leave him empty. And for the first time, that truth felt solid. Something real. Something he was no longer willing to give away. Kevin reached the point where saying no no longer felt like breaking a rule, but instead felt like honoring something within himself. He realized that the real transformation wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet, steady, and deeply personal, like rebuilding a life from the inside out. The chaos that once defined his days hadn't completely disappeared. People still asked. Expectations still existed. The world around him hadn't magically adjusted to his new boundaries. But what had changed was Kevin's response to it all. Now, instead of reacting automatically, he paused. He considered. He chose. And in that space between request and response, he found control. Something he had unknowingly given away for years. His mornings began to feel different. No longer rushed by obligations he hadn't agreed to, but shaped by intention. Small decisions that belonged to him. Taking time to sit with his coffee without checking his phone. Stepping outside just to breathe. Allowing silence to exist without feeling the need to fill it. These moments, though simple, became the foundation of a life that finally felt like his own. He started to notice how much energy he had been wasting before, not just physically, but emotionally. Constantly anticipating others' needs. Constantly preparing to give more than he had. As he pulled back from that pattern, he discovered something surprising. He wasn't as exhausted anymore. Not because life had become easier, but because he was no longer carrying what wasn't his to carry. Relationships, too, began to shift into clearer shapes. Some naturally faded away when they no longer had unlimited access to him. Others adjusted slowly. Learning, sometimes reluctantly, that Kevin's time and energy were no longer freely available at all times. And while that process wasn't always comfortable, it was revealing. Because it showed him who valued him as a person and who had only valued his availability. Though letting certain connections weaken felt like a loss at first, it eventually created space for something more genuine, more balanced, more respectful. There were still moments when doubt surfaced. When an unanswered message lingered longer than expected. When someone's tone carried disappointment. When the old urge to fix everything tried to resurface. But now Kevin recognized those feelings for what they were. Echoes of his old identity, not commands he had to follow. Instead of reacting to them immediately, he allowed them to pass. Like waves that rise and fall without pulling him under. One evening, sitting in the same apartment that once felt heavy with exhaustion, Kevin noticed something he hadn't felt in a long time. Calm. Not the kind that comes from everything being perfect, but the kind that comes from knowing you're no longer at war with yourself. As he sat there, reflecting on how far he had come, he understood something that had taken him years to learn. That saying no was never about pushing people away. It was about creating space for the right things to stay. About protecting his energy so that when he did say yes, it actually meant something. It came from a place of willingness rather than obligation. He began to use his time differently. Not filling every gap with someone else's needs. But allowing himself to explore what he actually wanted. What interested him. What made him feel alive rather than drained. At first, that freedom felt unfamiliar. Almost uncomfortable. Because he wasn't used to having that kind of space. But gradually, it became something he valued deeply. Something he protected without guilt. The biggest change, however, wasn't in his routine or even in his relationships. It was in how he saw himself. For the first time, Kevin no longer measured his worth by how much he could give to others. He no longer felt the need to prove his value through constant availability. Instead, he began to understand that his time, his energy, his presence were not things to be endlessly distributed. But resources to be respected. Both by others and by himself. And with that understanding came a quiet confidence. Not loud or attention-seeking. But steady and grounded. The kind that doesn't need validation because it's built on self-awareness rather than approval. People still came and went. Requests still appeared. Life still moved with its usual unpredictability. But Kevin remained centered within it all. No longer pulled in every direction. No longer drained by everything around him. Because he had finally learned something simple yet powerful. That protecting his peace was not selfish. It was necessary. And that every time he said no to what drained him, he was making room for a life that felt fuller, clearer, and truly his. And in that space, in that balance he had fought to create, Kevin didn't just find relief. He found himself. Not the version shaped by expectations or defined by constant giving. But the version that existed underneath it all. Steady. Aware. And finally free to live without losing himself in the process.